Level 1. The pipeline. You don't begin at Delta. Nobody does. Delta pulls from people who have already distinguished themselves in units that would represent the peak of most military careers. You start as an infantryman, a ranger, a Green Beret. Basic training, airborne school, ranger school. You earn your tab, you deploy. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Places that don't surface in news cycles because the operations conducted there carry no official acknowledgement. You spend 4 to 6 years assembling a record that most soldiers would comfortably retire on. Ranger Battalion, 75th Regiment, 3 combat deployments before you turn 25. You've stacked doors in Fallujah, held security on a ridgeline in the Korangal, and fast-roped from a Black Hawk onto a rooftop in Mosul at 2 a.m. You're a sergeant or staff sergeant E5 or E6. You're exceptional at what you do, and the people around you recognize it without it needing to be said. Then a notice appears on the bulletin board at Fort Bragg. A recruitment briefing. No unit name, no insignia. Just a time, a building number, and a single sentence referencing a special operations unit organized for missions requiring rapid response and the surgical application of unique special operations capabilities. You attend. A man in civilian clothes stands at the front and tells you almost nothing. 4 weeks of selection. Attrition historically above 90%. If selected, you'll join a unit that doesn't officially exist within a command structure that doesn't publicly acknowledge its own operations. He doesn't tell you what the unit does, where you'll go, what you'll carry, or who you'll answer to. He tells you the date to show up if you want in. You show up. Level 2. The selection. Selection takes place in the Appalachian Mountains around Fort Bragg and runs approximately 4 weeks. It is built to break you, not your body first, though it will get to that, but your mind. The course is designed to strip away every external structure you've ever depended on and see what remains when there's nothing left to lean against. You ruck. 45 pounds plus water and weapon across mountain terrain, distances climbing daily. 18 miles, then 25, then 40. The final event is a solo land navigation course through the mountains with no defined route and no time limit communicated. They don't tell you the distance. They don't tell you the standard. They don't tell you whether you're ahead or behind. The cadre watches and records and offers nothing in return. No encouragement, no correction, no indication of any kind. You navigate alone with a map and a compass. You locate a point. A man marks your card and hands you the next grid coordinate without a word. You turn and walk. The silence is the selection. Most military training features cadre who push, punish, and motivate. Here, nobody appears to care. That indifference is more corrosive than any drill sergeant's aggression because it forces you to generate every ounce of momentum from inside yourself. Candidates drop out in waves. They lower themselves onto a trail bank, raise a hand, and a truck collects them. No ceremony, no commentary, just gone. Of the 120 candidates who started alongside you, 12 will be selected. You are one of them. When they inform you, you feel nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction. The exhaustion has consumed everything except the quiet understanding that whatever follows will be more demanding than what you just survived. Level 3. The Operator Training Course. 6 months. This is where they construct something the conventional army has no category for. Close quarters battle is rebuilt from the foundation at a precision level that makes Ranger training feel like an orientation. Thousands of rounds per week. Pistol transitions in under a second. Rifle to pistol in confined corridors. Shooting around hostages with margins measured in inches. You clear rooms with live ammunition and live role players standing next to the targets because Delta doesn't simulate consequences. An imprecise shot produces real bleeding. You learn breaching in every form. Mechanical, ballistic, explosive, thermal. Any door on Earth opens in under 3 seconds. A standard lock, a reinforced hinge, a safe room door rated against entry. It doesn't matter. You learn to move through a structure with a speed and controlled aggression that doesn't leave occupants time to process what's happening before it's already finished. You learn tradecraft, surveillance detection routes, cover identities, how to move through a foreign city without registering as foreign, how to meet a source in a public space without the meeting being visible to anyone watching. Delta operators exist at the intersection of soldier and intelligence operative more completely than any other unit in the military, and OTC is where that begins. Advanced driving. Evasive techniques, J-turns, vehicle ramming, high-speed movement through urban environments, field medicine at a level beyond standard trauma care, surgical management of injuries sustained in active hallways with rounds impacting walls 6 feet away. Graduation has no ceremony, no invited families, no audience. You receive your assignment to an assault squadron and the understanding that you are now an operator. That word carries a meaning here that it doesn't hold anywhere else. Level 4. The new operator. You're placed in an assault troop, roughly 16 operators. You are the most recent arrival. In a unit where the average operator brought 8 to 12 years of special operations experience before walking through the door, being new carries specific weight. It means you prove yourself again from the beginning. The training cycle doesn't stop. 10 months of preparation, 2 months deployed, or split closer to even depending on what the world is generating in terms of demand. You fire more ammunition in a single month than most infantry battalions consume annually. You run the kill house until the close quarter sequences are part of your nervous system rather than your conscious thought. Enter, clear left, clear right, acquire, transition, next room. 1,000 repetitions until the sequence executes in complete darkness by sound and spatial memory alone. Your first deployment is to a location you will never identify by name. You arrive in an MH-60 flown by a 160 Thesaur pilot who positions the aircraft on a rooftop the size of a parking space at midnight with no external lighting. The door comes off its hinges in a controlled detonation that sounds like a single sharp crack from God. 90 seconds from breach to clearance. The target is a high-value individual whose name you received 6 hours earlier in a briefing room and will not retain 6 hours after the mission, because the next target is already being developed by the intelligence cell. You flex cuff him, bag his head, walk him to the helicopter, and 4 hours later you're cleaning your weapon on a forward operating base eating a protein bar. Nobody will ever know what happened tonight. That's the job. Level 5. The experienced operator. 3 years in the unit. 6 deployments. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Africa, locations in Southeast Asia and South America that exist in no official documentation. More than 200 direct action raids. You've breached compounds in Baghdad and Sadr City, cleared cave systems in Tora Bora, pulled a target from a moving vehicle on a highway in a country you cannot name. You've engaged people at distances measured in feet and distances measured in hundreds of meters. You can read the difference between a man reaching for a weapon and a man reaching for a phone in the fraction of a second available to make that distinction. You've been right every time. The margin for error is 0. You're selected for a reconnaissance troop. Recon doesn't kick doors. Recon watches. You conduct close target reconnaissance on objectives that assault elements will hit days or weeks later. 2 or 4-man teams, often in civilian clothes, often inside denied territory, often for weeks without resupply or external communication. You spend 72 consecutive hours in a hide site 300 meters from a target compound, in a depression you excavated with an entrenching tool and covered with local material, logging every individual who enters or exits, every vehicle plate, every delivery, every behavioral pattern that the analyst will use to construct the assault plan. You don't move. You don't speak above a breath. You manage your biological needs into containers because any indicator of human presence destroys the mission. Assault work is violence compressed into seconds. Recon is discipline stretched across days. Both demand the same underlying capacity, the ability to be exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what the mission requires, when everything inside you is pushing toward movement. Level 6. The team leader. You lead a team of 4 operators now. Their training, their readiness, their execution on target, and their lives are your responsibility. Team leadership in Delta carries authority that doesn't translate to conventional rank structure. You might be an E7 leading men who are also E7s and E8s because inside this unit, capability and role take precedence over grade. The hierarchy is intentionally flat. Charlie Beckwith designed it that way after studying the SAS and concluding that rigid rank structures produce casualties in small unit operations, where the man on the ground has information the commander doesn't. You receive a target package from the intelligence cell, photographs, signals, intelligence, human intelligence, the pattern of life inside a compound, sleeping locations, weapons, guard rotation times. You build a plan, Rehearse it against a mock-up, brief it to the troop commander, execute it at 0200. On target, you make decisions in fractions of seconds that will be examined by attorneys and general officers for months afterward. A man comes around a corner holding something. You shoot or you don't. The object is a weapon or a phone or something else entirely. The debrief will reach a determination. You absorb the weight of those calls, the ones that were clearly correct, and the ones you're less certain about, and the ones that surface at 3 a.m. in a way that no legal review resolves, because the lawyers weren't in the hallway and didn't have the half-second you had to decide. After a deployment, you sit in a bar in Fayetteville with your team, and nobody discusses the missions because nobody needs to. The shared silence is more truthful than any conversation. Your wife asks how the trip was. Fine, you say. She stopped asking follow-up questions years ago. Level 7. The Senior Operator. 8 years in the unit. More than 300 combat operations. Your body is a catalog of accumulated damage. Perforated eardrums from breaching charges. A knee reconstructed with titanium hardware from a rooftop fall in Ramadi. Vertebrae compressed from thousands of parachute landings and helicopter insertions. The cumulative effect of body armor worn 14 hours a day across years of deployment. The VA will assess you at 80% disability when you separate. The real number is higher, but acknowledging that feels like acknowledging a limitation, and operators build workarounds rather than concede limitations. You mentor new operators the way you were once mentored, not through instruction but through demonstration, through clearing a room at 42 with the same economy of movement you had at 28, through the steadiness in your voice on the radio when the breach fails and the hallway is blocked and the contingency becomes the primary plan in the space between two heartbeats. You've lost friends, not colleagues, not professional contacts, brothers, men whose children address you as uncle, men whose wives call you when something needs fixing at the house because their husbands are on the other side of the world and you are the only person they trust who inhabits the same reality, men you trained alongside, deployed with, and bled next to in hallways across 3 continents. The unit has a wall, not a public monument, photographs in a corridor that most people will never walk through, in a building most people will never enter, on a compound most people will never know exists. You pass those photographs every morning. You know every name. Level 8. The Squadron Commander. You command 60 to 80 operators plus support personnel, the most capable small unit on Earth, and every trigger pull, every breach, every bullet is your responsibility. You answer to the unit commander, who answers to the JSOC commander, who answers to the Secretary of Defense and the President. 4 people between your operators and the Oval Office. When the President authorizes a kill or capture mission against a high-value target, that authorization moves down that chain and arrives on your desk, and you translate it into a plan that puts your men through a door in a country that may or may not be aware they're there. You deploy your squadron as a task force. Your operators, 161st SOAR helicopters, Air Force combat controllers, Rangers as a quick reaction force, ISA signals intelligence assets, CIA case officers who develop the target. You run operations every night of a deployment rotation. Every single night. Hit, exploit, relocate. The intelligence gathered on one raid produces the target for the following raid, and the operational tempo is unrelenting. During the peak Iraq period between 2005 and 2008, Delta squadrons were conducting 10 to 15 raids per night across multiple provinces, systematically dismantling al-Qaeda in Iraq's network 1 cell leader at a time, in what became the most sustained high-tempo special operations campaign in American military history. The fatigue is cumulative and invisible and constant. Your operators don't raise it because operators don't raise it, but you see it in reaction times, in decision-making, in the particular way they occupy chairs in the briefing room before a mission. Managing the human cost of sustained combat in men who will never acknowledge that a cost exists is among the most demanding aspects of the command. Level 9. The Retiree. You leave after 12 or 15 or 20 years. The departure is quiet. No press release, no public record, no entry anywhere that a civilian could locate confirming you were ever assigned there. Your service jacket reflects a Department of the Army staff position at Fort Bragg. That's the entirety of it. The raids, the targets, the rescued hostages, the countries operated in, None of it surfaces anywhere accessible. You take a position. Private contracting, security consulting for a Fortune 500 company, or the CIA's Special Activities Center, which draws heavily from Delta and DevGru for paramilitary operations requiring deniability. Some operators move to the agency and continue doing functionally identical work in identical countries under different administrative letterhead. The compensation triples. The work is the same. The silence is the same. The distance from ordinary life is the same. You attempt civilian life. You sit in traffic. You attend your daughter's school performance. You stand in a checkout line behind someone contesting a coupon price. And somewhere in that moment, you're also standing in a hallway in a country whose name you can't say, and the man who came around the corner is falling, and you're stepping past him to clear the next room. You can't reconcile those two things, so eventually you stop attempting to. You find a therapist. The culture that made you effective in a hallway makes you functionally unable to describe what you've done to someone who wasn't present for it. The only people who understand are the people you served alongside. So you call them and they call you, and you find places to sit with your back to the wall and talk about things that have no audience outside that room. It's enough. It has to be. Level 10. The cycle. Right now, at Fort Liberty, which the operators still call Bragg, a sergeant in the 75th Ranger Regiment is reading a recruitment notice. He's 26, 4 combat deployments. Ranger tab, combat infantryman badge, a Purple Heart he doesn't bring up. He is among the best soldiers in his battalion, and his chain of command is aware of this, which is exactly why the notice reached him. He's thinking about the selection. The mountains, the 40-mile navigation with no time standard communicated and no feedback offered, the 90% attrition rate. He's thinking about the operators he encountered on joint operations. The quiet men in civilian clothes and beards who materialized on his FOB and disappeared 48 hours later, leaving behind shell casings and intelligence products and no other evidence of presence. He wants to become one of them. He doesn't know yet what it costs. He doesn't know about the 300 raids or the reconstructed joints or the marriages that crack under the specific pressure of sustained secrecy and absence. He doesn't know about the wall with the photographs, or the names you carry forward, or the moment in the grocery store where two incompatible realities occupy the same body simultaneously, and neither one yields. He knows the date. He knows the location. He'll be there. They always are. The best ones consistently move toward the most demanding thing available because something inside them needs the answer to a specific question. The unit provides that answer. It always has. Most won't pass. The ones who do will spend their careers operating in a space the public will never see, doing work that will never be documented anywhere a civilian can find it. The cycle continues.
I appreciate you watching until the very end. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It really helps out a growing channel like mine. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.